Hi, my name is Danny Leung from Timbre and Blues Fest. I'd like to make a very, very warm welcome to Mr. Robert Plant. Welcome to Singapore.
Thank you.
And
I've been knocking on the door.
You have been, and you know what? To me, it's a we are of course promoting the show and trying to organize this festival. But to me personally, it's a historic moment for me, because obviously you about 20, 30 years ago, you tried to come in and finally we got you here. So how do you feel about being in Singapore?
I feel exhilarated, and I must have become a really good guy since 20 or 30 years ago. I don't know what happened, what changed. Perhaps it's all those early nights.
Even though you couldn't come here, you were actually here because a lot of the bands were playing your songs.
Gotcha.
And a lot of bands were actually formed because of your band. And
so you could have bands in Singapore that look like us, but we couldn't come in.
Well, they look Asian, but
Yeah, well, that's
with the long hair.
It's a good look.
It is a good look, long hair. But how do you feel about that? I mean, in terms of influence, because it's the biggest influence is blues and rock and roll actually in Singapore. And they were playing to a lot of the military people that were based here in the clubs that had, Navy and British Navy as well as the American Navy.
Well, I don't know, I mean, it's just everything's cyclic, and when you think about it, it's how did we get what we got? We got it from listening to a particular kind of music, which captivated an entire age group, an entire generation of musicians in Britain and the United States, particularly. I mean, and the effect was felt throughout Europe, throughout America, throughout the world. It was there was a sort of unexplainable drift and theme coming from the least likely place, from an impoverished, disenfranchised African American culture, which we had no understanding of. But it sent out these kind of ridiculous, sound waves and whatever they were to a generation of 15, 16-year-old kids. And in Britain, apart from the mainstream of popular music, which was following the same old, line, there was so much influence and so much, it was almost like a kind of hypnosis, really, that music. And so that's what it did. It affected us, and then we took it and messed with it. And when I think about what happened in America, it was probably a lot more, if you like, bona fide, because bands like Canned Heat and so on, and Elvin Bishop and Mike Bloomfield, all those people went out and they found those guys. A lot of the guys who hadn't worked for a long time, the country blues players from the Mississippi Delta, and brought them back into Newport Folk Festival, along with Bob Dylan and stuff like that. And then they came to Britain. There were a couple of German promoters who brought them to the United Kingdom with the younger guys at the time, Hound Dog Taylor and Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Little Walter, and Sonny Boy Williamson. So we were in heaven, because we had no connection, no understanding. And sometimes this amazing sort of black poetry stroke irony of simple lyric and repetition and and the scales of the music just hit us so hard, and that had also at the same time in America translated itself into New Orleans swamp pop and stuff going on in Chicago and and Philadelphia and Detroit. So you got this amazing, so the modern black musician became something else. So Buddy Guy would work with Howlin' Wolf or Muddy Waters, but he'd also be working with Junior Wells and pumping it up somewhere else around the corner and making it a bit more contemporary. So we were on board, So look at Jimi Hendrix. I mean, he was a backup guitarist with Little Richard and Curtis Knight, I think. I can't remember now. Anyway, and
Ray Charles, I believe.
Yeah,
a little bit.
maybe, and Ray Charles was a backup pianist for Lowell Fulson. But all this stuff was going on, and we got it, and we messed with it. And a lot of the black guys didn't like that, and a lot of black guys said, "Hey, there's a door open here, and they came out to Europe and they became demigods.
Absolutely.
That thing never actually went away from us, you know.
Luther Allison moved to
right.
France. And,
And so did Memphis Slim,
Absolutely. They were more respected in Europe than in America.
And in Scandinavia, very big. But so really what we did was we took a theme, and then all that kind of teenage testosterone guitar players, low-slung guys with, you know, that we all know about, got hold of that stuff and took some of the original riffs and messed with them and created their own great, beautiful riffs. And singers came along and took it and messed with it. So by the time it gets to Singapore or somewhere like Japan or wherever, or Hong Kong or anywhere else, then you guys get your own take on it. And then it gets even more beautiful because it mutates and goes round and round and round until it becomes this other thing altogether. I remember in the middle of the night, one night in Chicago, I was in the street, crossing the street, and I saw Robert Jr. Lockwood, who was the stepson of Robert Johnson. And he'd just done a session at some club, actually uptown, not in the South Side. And he was right in the middle of the street with his guitar in a case. And he said, "You have no right to take our music." And I said, "Well, who were you singing to tonight? Were you singing to your own people, or were you singing to the Swedish, you know, students who'd come over on some kind of exchange?" And, you know, I've been in the most wild clubs where there's a color code thing going on. And when you get inside the club, the whole community for a square mile could be very aggressive. But when you get in the club, the music was black guys playing to white kids. And, you know, it's a very strange chemical imbalance. The chemistry is quite similar. And even though it turned into Guns N' Roses, you know, and everybody loves all the various tangents that it's taken.
Metallica.
Yeah, if you must.
You must.
Hello. That's for you, Peter Mensch. Fucking hell. Yeah, it's turned into all sorts of things. Yeah, well, it's mutated, and it is what it is. So now I come here to Singapore, finally the door's open, and I walk in expecting to be manacled and taken away for interrogation. And with me comes a guy from West Africa who is a griot, so his family have been responsible for hundreds of years for bringing the news by music from village to village. And this guy, whatever night it is, will sing and give his stuff to an audience here. And it's unbelievable because it's pre-Mississippi, it's pre that journey into the Americas. And yet the link is fantastic. And that's the thing that I like. That's the thing that gives me the kind of reason to be here rather than to be just mimicking what I did 30, 40 years ago. There's no need for that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, because I'm a blues lover, and I'm actually playing before you are, by the way. I'm the promoter, but I'm also a musician. I'm playing with Cara Granger.
Okay.
And we're basically called Raw Earth. And my own personal story is actually inspired a lot by the British blues experience. I mean, I listened to Eric Clapton, of course, and then Cream, and of course Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones. And for me...
Thanks. Okay. Yes. Oh yeah, excuse me, sorry.
No worries, please. You know, this is like your home. So, for me, I read about how vinyls went across from America to England, and I myself, when I was 16, I bought those vinyls, boogie woogie vinyls.
Yeah.
And then I went back to the gospel, black gospel, to Robert Johnson, Sun House. You know, I went from Cream to Sun House.
Yeah,
that's
the road, isn't it?
It is the road, and then I got stuck there. I've been stuck there for 20, odd years, and I played in. We played in. We were the first Asian band to play in the Legends Bar in Buddy Guys.
Oh, really?
Yes, and we were the first Asian band to play at the Blues Fest. Are we shooting?
Yeah, we are. But this is now it's starting.
Sorry,
All we need
it's
now
like
is
Robert's house.
It's just we need some cigarette smoke and Son House somewhere being told to shut the fuck up by by the Howled Wolf. You seen that
I saw that.
that film?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you know what? I love the blues, and one of the things I love about the blues is about really the idea that one man against the world, one man just in a suit and a guitar, just singing about how he feels to the world. And what I love about it is it's incredibly universal.
Yeah.
And as you say, it can be mutated to different cultures. And that's exciting to me because I'm very passionate about Asian music and Asian musicians. I kind of think of it as a last frontier.
Yeah,
almost.
maybe, yeah.
You know, the Indias, the China, the Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, and a lot of amazing talent here. They can't get out there maybe because Western media has a perception maybe about certain things. But I would like your advice on that.
Well, I don't know. I don't have any advice. Nobody listens to me, and also I don't have any advice. But the thing is, what we already mutated it. So if you carry on mutating it, that's everybody. It's fine because it has to develop. It has to become something else. I mean, if you think about it, say my pal Dan, who sings with the Black Keys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's such a great singer. I don't know whether anybody actually talks about what a great singer he is, but he's a fantastic singer. And a lot of the stuff that they did when initially on Fat Possum Records with R.L. Burnside and where they were doing remixes and stuff, Burnside and Junior Kinsborough were the last sort of renegades. And they weren't lyrical Shakespearean characters like Son House and Charlie Patton, but they were brilliant. And a very young Dan Obach got hold of them and messed with them down there. And so many of the Black Keys things, and then boom, turn the page, and the White Stripes deal it's so primeval. I know some stories about all that, but I'll keep those quiet. The primeval bit it's great because it didn't have a drum kit initially or a bass or whatever it was. It was Charlie Patton or Robert Petway or Tommy McLennan playing this stuff that
stomping.
Yeah, all the kids at school wanted to be in this kind of other world where it all made sense, where it wasn't white, clean and neat. And I wrote a song called White, Clean and Neat in 1987 or 8 or whatever it was, and it was all about how my parents had to make sure I didn't even know anything about that shit. Little Richard was about as far into that zone as you could go, and because it was quite intimidating for our parents to suddenly have a house full of music that they couldn't understand, and neither could we. We were just being visited by it, So it was great. So look what it's done for me. It's allowed me to write gentle songs. I listened a lot to doo-wop and Italian street singers and stuff like that in New York, or fado from Portugal, or whatever it is from Argentina. I listened to songs which have a particular scale, a musical scale, which is not particularly joyous. You're talking about the gospel stuff, and the kind of fight between the spirit of man to drag himself away from the church and into the juke joint and back and forward, which Son House did whenever he was feeling either guilty or financially embarrassed, I don't know. But it's fantastic to mess with it to the degree that you end up with something sounding like what Space Shifters is. Because we do a version of Spoonful, which is just so far out. I mean, it's just, and that began in 1932 with Charlie Patton singing Spoonful. And then the Wolf got hold of it, and now we've just put it into the blender, pushed the button. It's good stuff. It won't leave me.
Well, would you be interested to look into projects where you involve Asian music in some ways, maybe in the future? Do you see that happening? Collaborations of more, because what you about, for me, is inspiring is that you collaborate a lot.
Yeah.
You have all kinds of musicians working with you. It's always an evolving thing with you.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for that because, you know, you're actually taking different musicians, different styles and bringing it together. It almost looks like a United Nations of music sometimes.
Yeah, but you know what I don't like is I don't like it to get too fancy and too charming.
Sure.
I like it to have the edge that I believe in, the kind of the brittle abstraction that stops it from being coffee table music. You know, because when Justin, who's, you know, one of the ringleaders of our orchestra here, when I went with him and Skin and my boy to Timbuktu, I sang in the desert with Ali Farka Touré one night around a fire, and it was amazing because it was the most beautiful, soft, dulcet voice sitting out in the dark, just playing an acoustic guitar, but it was so beautifully blue, and there was just they'd gone off somewhere with a truck and come back with some wood and made a hole in the sand and created a fire, and we just sat around for hours singing. And when he nodded to me as if to say, okay, now you sing, I mean, it was like one of those moments where you say, how did I get here? You know, I'm singing an American black blues part to a guy from Mali. Now, how weird is that? I mean, it's like throwing the ball against the wall and it comes back as a diamond. It's really quite something.
I love that. Yeah. Really, thank you for spending some time with me. And,
well, I wish you well.
Well, we wish each other well because, you know, it's Thursday. We've got, of course, Robert Plant and Sensational Space Shifters. But just before you go, just maybe you could just do us a favor and just maybe have a word for Singapore fans and a little bit like, you know, what to expect tomorrow.
What do you expect tomorrow? Well, I expect nothing at all because nothing's happening tomorrow.
Oh, sorry, Thursday.
Yeah, what does he expect on Thursday? Well, who can tell? If he doesn't know what day it is, one has to be a little bit worried that he may actually arrive at the concert just a little bit before everybody else. He'll have a fantastic set. He can play all fucking night as far as I'm concerned because that will be fine.
And I love it that he's giving me shit. To be honest, it's an honor, really.
It's an honor to be given shit. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Good luck. I hope
Good
you
luck.
do well. We'll be watching you. And we'll get marks out of 10.
Oh, man. That would be wonderful.